making and receiving offers. This is one of the things that I enjoy most. For any of you that don't know me, I am Amanda Reiter. I'm one half of the A&N Homes team here with Nikki Castillo. We taught the open house class on Tuesday. A little bit about me. Before I was a realtor, I spent the vast majority of my career in Washington, D.C., working in state and local government affairs, which is all about writing and, defeating legislation. So basically my whole job was negotiating, whether it was with our chain restaurant members or our independent folks or legislatures. There was a lot of that always went on. So whenever I got into real estate, contracts and negotiating was the first area that I felt really comfortable in, because it was something that I was used to doing. And there's actually, through that process, you can really benefit your clients by knowing what to do. So that's a little bit about me and why I'm teaching this class today. So let's go to the next slide. So I think we're talking, where's it gonna go? Next slide, damn it. Sorry, I need a mouse.
Cuss away, girl.
I swear a lot, my apologies. Just who I am. I'm just a girl from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania who swears a lot. All right, so we've talked a bit this week. I'm sure that you guys have talked about generating leads. We talked at open house about getting those leads. So let's say now that you went ahead and you got that buyer and you're showing them houses and now they want to make an offer. So has anybody here, and you just raise your hand, has anybody written an offer yet? No? You, okay, awesome.
We're on the third draft of one, so this is a timely.
Timely, I love it, perfect. Let's see if this will let me just advance. Okay, so the offer process. So let's see what they say the first step is, and then we'll see if I agree. All right, so once your buyers found the property, their perfect home, the seller starts looking forward to concluding the sale of their property, where the fun and magic begins. So we're gonna walk through the offer process. We're gonna explain how it can be a loop and not just linear. And we're gonna make sure that you know a little bit about the negotiating skills that you're gonna need to have. So I think this is a good question. What emotions do buyers and sellers have at this stage when we're getting ready to make and receive offers?
Excitement, fear,
yes.
anxiety,
all of it. They're running hot, right?
Yeah.
They're running hot. They want to know, oh, I'm so excited. What if nobody likes my house as much as I do? We really want to get this, and it's very real on both sides. Now, in a more normalized market where it's more balanced, right? You're gonna have a little more anxiety on the seller side. In this market where it is predominantly a seller's market, sellers are just sort of they're really excited, they have really high expectations, which if you're representing the seller, and we'll talk about that, you're gonna wanna temper expectations because the market does fluctuate. And we were actually talking about this in our luxury meeting on Tuesday, a lot of sellers are getting really greedy. So if you are working with the seller, I would really encourage you to have that information from Land Title that talks about, we're pricing your house, where it's priced at, what the market's doing. One of the things I always explain to sellers is, look, your house needs to appraise. Sure, you can have a $550,000 house. We could price it at $1 million. Maybe somebody would be willing to pay $1 million for it. But when they go to get that $1 million loan and that house only appraises for $500,000, unless you have an appraisal gap, which we'll talk about what that is, you're not getting $1 million. So for me, it's about pricing a house strategically where you're going to get the most eyeballs. You're going to get the most people coming to that home, and you have the most opportunity to drive that price up from where it will appraise. So I have some very relevant real world experiences that we're going to talk about today. So let's just go to talking about the buyer is making an offer. So how do you prepare an offer? Let's see if I like what they say. All right, so the first step, and honestly, you should have this done before you're getting ready to show them a house and preparing offers. make sure that your buyer is qualified with a lender, okay? Real quickly, I'm gonna tell you, there's, many types of lenders out there. I like to give my buyers 3 lenders to qualify with or to talk to. One is always usually if you have a preferred lender that you do a lot of business with or they refer you. So I have a couple of gals in my neighborhood who work for a bank, like US Bank is one of my contacts. And so I always give her that one, here's somebody that lives in our neighborhood, works for a bank, really, really smart, gonna give you a lot of perspective. 2, Mitch is always my second. Mitch with Pivot Lending here in our office. Mitch is a mortgage broker, right? So Mitch is able to shop out loans to different, and he knows everything about CHAFA and loan assistance and FHA and VA and all of that stuff. Tell them that, Mitch might not be able to give them the best deal. Mitch is going to give them some of the best information they ever had. And then my third is always Keller Mortgage. So you know that, again, as a Keller Williams agent, you have access to offering your clients a product that has a great mortgage product where they're going to get a competitive rate, 0 lender fees, 0 origination fees, and $1,000 at closing. This could mean anything from $2,500 total to, I think I've saved somebody about $15,000 on the life of their loan with Keller Mortgage. And you lean into that again. Things that are in our toolbox that Gary Keller is giving us to say, hey, you work with us, we're able to give you even a loan. I've had my last 4 buyers use Keller Mortgage. They each got under 3% and saved a buttload of money. You can also find, so you go to the Keller Mortgage site, you can log in as a Keller agent, you can just start meeting other Keller mortgage agents. I've actually found one that I really like. Her name is Bonnie Garza. She's based in Texas. She does loans all over the country, and she's become a part of our team. We text each other. She treats me like a local lender. If you see your buyer and your buyer says to you, well, yeah, I got this pre-qual with Bank of America or Quicken Loans or insert any other big box lender here, I would encourage them, unless they will absolutely not budge, to talk to another more local lender. And let me tell you why. Probably my 3rd buyer ever had a investment account with Bank of America. Her whole family banked with Bank of America. And they told me, we're going to be good. We're going to be great. The seller on that property took our offer, and he actually, so fast forward, long story short, Bank of America delayed our closing 3 times. To Bank of America, we were a grain of sand on the beach, right? To a local lender, you are a boulder, right? You are a big part of, and they truly work on commission, and their commissions are far smaller than ours are. You want a lender you're gonna explain to your buyer, you want a lender that's gonna fight for you, that's gonna work with you, that's gonna be a part of our team. Because in a seller's market, having a great lender is gonna help you, and we'll talk about that as we get to sort of the process. So again, make sure your people are pre-qualified, make sure they're talking to a couple of different lenders. You tell them you want to talk to different lenders because there are different programs out there. They're going to give you different information. And I, as your fiduciary, want to make sure that you are getting the most for your money, right? We're making your money go for this. So if you have found a house that they want to buy, one of the great things you could do for your client is you should do a quick CMA.
Can I ask a question about Keller Mortgage?
Yes.
Because yesterday it was mentioned that Keller Mortgage is something that if your buyers have never gone through a buying process, is a little bit more difficult. They don't really hold your hand and go take you through the process.
I would say that's more depending on the lender that you're working with within Keller Mortgage.
Okay.
So for example, so for me, I usually call Bonnie and I say, hey, Bonnie, I have some first-time home buyers. Are you going to have the time to give them the attention and the hand-holding that they're going to need? And if she's like, you know what, I'm really busy right now, let me recommend such and such on our team. Or again, those local lenders are going to probably be a little more willing to hold a hand as well. I've never had that issue.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I've never had that issue. Keller Mortgage, they're doing how many she told me they're doing a month, 6,000 loans a month. So they're busy. But again, you'd have a conversation with them. Hey, these are first time home buyers, so it's really important to me they have a great experience. I just want to make sure that like you're on board and you have the ability to give them that time. Again, that's just about that communication. Pick up the phone, call them and tell them this is what I expect. And, you know, in a nice way, don't be an asshole about it, but you know, this is what I
Like you
need.
usually are.
Yeah, I mean, I am, but you know, whatever. This is what I need from you. And I just want to make sure that these people have a great experience, right? And some of the underwriters at Keller Mortgage can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but guess what? I've never not had a deal get to closing on time. Okay. So doing a quick CMA, again, you could, I pay for a product called Cloud CMA that is about $350 a year. I did not pay for that until I started making some money. I think somewhere as a part of Ignite, they teach you how to do a CMA. A basic CMA through RE Colorado, that's not gonna cost you a darn thing.
Margaret taught me how to do
Okay,
that.
and we could, and if there isn't a great class on that, I would always be happy to do a class on a great CMA. But Cloud CMA is just really easy. You can find the houses right around it that are similar to it. I personally don't compare 2 stories to ranches. They're apples and oranges in my book. It's just different. So I always like, so we have a ranch that went on the market in Firestone yesterday. We have 24 showings today, 24 showings today. And, you know, a couple people called and asked me when I did the CMA, there was only one other house, maybe 2 other houses that were around that were a ranch. And my seller asked me, she's like, well, why is this other house priced so much bigger, more than mine? It's a 2-story, much bigger lot. Again, you just want to be able to know these things and say to your buyer, well, this is why this house is priced here. Or, you know, in the olden days when it was a little more even Steven out there, you'd be like, well, I think they're overshooting. Maybe we could come in here. Most sellers are not going to go off the market that first weekend, and at least my sellers don't, for anything less than a full price offer. Unless they're like exorbitant and you call the agent and the agent's like, yeah, my seller's just shooting for it, and they might, you know, let it go, and we'll get to that part. Review the tax records. It's really easy, just in the MLS or in Realist, you can put in the address, look up the tax records. I always look to see whether or not that seller of that house I'm writing an offer on has refinanced 8,000 times. You can also do something called an O&E, which is an ownership and encumbrances, which is $5. I generally pull one on every house I'm selling. I haven't done one on every house I'm buying. It doesn't hurt though. Again, $5 through Land Title, and they can basically tell you what sort of liens are on the house. Do these people have 4 mortgages on the house? Like, how ugly is this gonna be?
How does it impact if someone has refinanced 8 million times?
Ernie called about Deerfield? Okay, yeah. I have 24 showings today.
I think it's
Maybe I'll have Jamie get, or one of you two give him a call.
It's a water?
A potential
Potential
buyer.
buyer?
Yeah, he's not gonna get this house, sorry. So what does it show you?
Yeah.
So, okay,
I'll
so
show you one.
what it would show you is what the outstanding loan is on the house essentially, and if there are any other liens against the house. So for example, there's somebody in my neighborhood who owes our district $2,000 for HOA fees. And he has been talking to me for 6 months and Nikki about selling his house. I fully anticipate that when I pull his O&E, because I know the district is filing a lien against him for that $2,000, that $2,000 lien will be on there. That's gonna have to be taken care of before that seller can convey that property free and clear of all liens. There could be mechanic liens on there. Somebody could have filed for bankruptcy and somebody could have filed something against them on there. There can be ugly stuff on there. I've been,
The refinancing, what does it matter
Yeah.
if they refinance like 8 million?
right, so if they refinanced 8 million times, they just might not have any equity in the house. They might have very little equity. They may have pulled out all of their equity. And then what that tells me is the price they're asking for, they're gonna be needing to get that price, if not more. Because they don't have any equity left in the house. They pulled it all out.
Another thing O&E can tell you, and I've been a little surprised by this, is who actually owns the property. Like,
Yes,
what's the name on the title? I have an older gentleman who approached me about a rental property, and he's spoken to me several times. And he mentions his wife a lot, but the title only has her name on it. So when I start to get a face-to-face meeting, I'm gonna need to make sure that she's there because he can't sell that property.
Yeah, so yeah, who is all involved in selling the house, right? Because sometimes you're gonna find that there might be one person that's selling the house and all of a sudden there's 3 people on the deed. Well, these other 3 people that are on the title and the deed for the house, they're gonna have to sign things too.
Every contract.
Every contract too. So just gives you some insight. Newer houses, you don't see it as much. Older houses, like I sold a 100-year-old house in Brighton for my brother-in-law. I was more nervous on what we were gonna find in the back on the title. I didn't want like Uncle Jimbo from 45 years ago to come back and be like, I have a stake to this house, you know?
Uncle Jimbo.
Uncle Jimbo. Sorry, I'm bizarre and I come up with all sorts of weird names and things, and I'll at least keep it interesting for you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were just saying about who is actually on the title, what if there is one person, but say 2 or more people live in the house and you're dealing with those people throughout the process, but then you also have, you know, I come from a legal background, so I'm thinking of confidentiality issues, especially regarding, you know, finances and stuff like that. So, but it sounds like you probably still talk to everybody who's in the house, even though they're not legally owners.
If you are the seller's agent, then yes. But right now we're talking about from the buyer's perspective, that you're not gonna talk to the seller and the people living in that house directly. You are only gonna talk to the listing agent. And basically,
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more of the selling situation.
yeah, so that would be more on the listing side, and we can certainly revisit that and talk about that at the end of the at the end of this, but we'll do the buyers right now. But as a part of your listing contract, as a part of your contract between you and your buyer, or you and your seller, there's a clause in there that says essentially you agree to execute all of your communications and negotiations through me. I always tell my buyers, it is not a benefit for you to call the seller. It is not going to be, at the beginning when everybody writes and receives and signs the offers, everybody's kumbaya and happy, and then reality sets in, right? That's why you need to be the professional, the one that's unemotional, the one that's talking to that seller's agent. That seller should have figured out who is on that deed and who truly has the decision-making authority on the other side. I like this one. Ensure that the property is still available. That's a big issue nowadays, right? I, as a listing agent, like for example, I had a showing on a house at 8:30 this morning. We already have an offer that we're going to counter in hand. And I just gave him the professional courtesy of, hey, I wanted to let you know I have an overpriced offer in hand. We are going to counter with some provisions, but I wanted to give you that heads up. And he said, well, I really appreciate that. And I'll be really honest too. My people are here on an exploratory sort of mission and they don't plan on writing an offer for 2 months. Great. Well, then I know that this morning's showing is not one that I'm going to be able to leverage. At the same time, though, I'm showing that house tomorrow, who I sent a message to this morning. If your people are very serious, I would highly encourage you to see this house as soon as possible today. So because we're going to, because frankly, if he doesn't make a move, we're going to be under contract today and I'm going to be canceling his showing for tomorrow. But I, again, reached out and gave him the courtesy, but I have a lot of people that call me on Tuesdays and Wednesdays if that house doesn't go under the first weekend and they say, is your house still available? Because a lot of people, and it depends on how you want to work it as a listing agent. As soon as we have all the agreements signed, I put the house under contract in the MLS. There are some agents who are of the mind that they wait for the earnest money to be turned in. I think that once we've executed contracts, the house should be listed as under contract. That's just me. All right. So now we're going to talk about writing the offer. So you're going to want to talk to your buyer about what are their price and terms, right? Where are you comfortable going? And usually right now in this market, it tends to be, unless that listing has been sitting, if it's been on the market for 2 days, it's not going to make you, attractive to the listing agent to work with if you give them an underpriced offer. In my case, I had a full price offer after 2 days and my clients still weren't willing to take it. Okay. So you have to be sure that you're counseling your buyers about what the market is like. And the grim reality is it is very much a seller's market. But what I also tell my buyers is not everything is about money, and we'll talk about that. Seller's disclosure. You always want to make sure that you're able to get a seller's property disclosure. You have to add some, like on this house we're selling in Firestone, we're selling it as is. So I have put the seller's property disclosure in the documents on the MLS. There's actually really nothing wrong with it. She's just an older lady and doesn't want to have to do anything. She really doesn't have to. It's a great house. She's the only one that's lived in it for like ever. Like she doesn't even use the other 2 bathrooms. You know what I mean? So, but we put that in there. You're always going to want to ask if it's not online before you write the offer, just say, you know, is there anything we should know about the house? And I assume that the seller will be doing a seller's property disclosure. Ask the agent outright, will they be conveying one? Because it's usually due within 3 days of your mutually executed contract. Conveyances. What is coming with the house? This is where a lot of people get themselves in trouble. And we're going to talk, hopefully this breaks it down by each of these because I would like to talk about each of these in depth. Earnest money. Earnest money is going to be shown what they're asking for and who's going to hold it. We here do not hold earnest money. I always ask for earnest money to be held by the title company. Some brokerages, you know, I've worked with RE/MAX before, and RE/MAX holds title or earnest money. I don't personally feel super great about that. That's what they do. We didn't have any issues. Time for seller acceptance. I don't want to talk about that in depth because I had this happen to me last night again. And the financing terms, right? So how are they qualifying? Are they using conventional? Are they using a VA? Are they an FHA buyer? Are they a cash buyer? Are they a combo of conventional and jumbo? Again, these are the things that you're gonna know from that first thing you had them do, which was the pre-qual. So I'm hoping this goes, they want you to create an offer in command. I do not write an offer in command. I write all of my offers. I don't like this at all. Okay, so we're gonna go on how Amanda does this. So writing an offer guideline. So the first thing you're gonna actually do is you're gonna pick up the phone. And this is what's gonna set you aside from every other agent. So we're gonna role play real quick. So Stephanie's gonna pretend to be the listing agent and I'm gonna be the buyer's agent. So I'm gonna move over here. So I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna say, ring, 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 ring.
Hi, this is Stephanie.
Hey, Stephanie, this is Amanda Ryder with Keller Williams. How are you this afternoon?
I'm great, Amanda. What's going on?
Hey, so I just showed your property over on Deerfield Drive and it's such a cute place.
Isn't that sweet?
I loved it.
That little lady doesn't even poop in those toilets. It's
I
amazing.
know. It is, you know what? I loved it. And those the 3 bedrooms, when most of them are 2, we just loved it.
Awesome.
So, hey, we're gonna write an offer. I wanted to give you the courtesy of a phone call first, just to sort of see what your buyer or what your seller is looking for.
Yeah.
So, you know, tell me, do you guys have any offers in hand?
You know what? We've had a ton of showings already, and I've heard from a couple of other agents that they're going to be submitting offers by the end of the day, but I haven't seen them yet.
Okay. And so what would you like your offer deadline to be? Are you guys looking for offers through the end of the weekend? What sort of timeline do y'all need?
You know, I think my nervous seller would prefer to have a signed contract in hand as soon as possible.
Okay.
So that's why we said we were reviewing as the contracts came through.
Sure. So what would make a winning offer for your seller right now? Is it mostly price? Are there other provisions?
Price is important, but she really just wants it to be no fuss. Like she wants it to be a solid offer that's going to go to the closing table, and she doesn't want to have a lot of picky pants things about fixing the house up.
Oh, I hear that. So, I mean, let me just throw this out to you and tell me if this would sound attractive. So I know you guys are listed at 4.
Right.
So we really love the house and I've looked at the comps in the market. I think that we'd like to come in above.
Okay.
So we're going to offer you $415 with an escalation to $420 if you get any, or $425 if you get any of those other offers in today.
All right.
We're going to also include an appraisal gap of $20,000.
All right.
We're going to go ahead and waive the inspection objection. Now we are going to still get an inspection, and we will reserve the right to terminate. But if something comes up and it's a big deal, I will always communicate that with you.
Okay.
But we're not going to be, you know, picky pants and ask you for recocking the bathroom that nobody poops in. And like, so if they're funny with you, be funny with them back. Create a relationship, right? So, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about me and myself and my buyer. We're gonna be putting about half down, the other half's gonna be conventional. I'm already gonna talk to the lender about, once we're under contract, if we can get an appraisal waiver. And honestly, we're just really easy to work with. They really want the house. We really wanna get to closing, and we'd really just like to make this a win-win for everybody. How's that sound to you?
All of that sounds great, and my old lady, lovely client, just really wants someone that, like I said, can get to the closing table with as little fuss as possible, and then she's off to Florida to gamble.
Rock on.
And yeah, wear flamingo shirts. So
All right, well, let's get her in those flamingo shirts. I might even have to throw one in with my offer.
awesome.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks so much for your time
Thanks,
today,
Amanda.
Stephanie. I will send that over.
I'll
And
look
then if
for
you
it.
have any questions or concerns, please let me know. We're
Perfect.
happy to compete.
If you give me a heads up by text when you got the offer
You bet.
submitted, that'd be great.
You bet. All right, thanks so much for your time today. All right, bye-bye. So if you see there, called her and I got what I wanted to know, right? Some agents will be tougher. Most agents are willing to tell you, here's what you need to do to compete.
Yeah.
And then it's on you as the buyer's agent to stay on top of it, right? So that's the first thing I do. I call and I say, okay, what do you need? So then I go back to my buyer and I say, here's what I found out. And then in this market, I talk to my buyers right now about, let's make an offer that we put in and we feel good about, that if we lose, that you did everything we could, okay? So, what two common objections? Oh yeah, so it's common for buyers to want to request that sellers make repairs. So I was working with a gal who was coming here from Kansas, and she and her parents were going to help her put the down payment on a first time home buyer. She really wants a townhome over in Superior that she used to rent, okay? And so her mom said, well, they're looking at the picture. She's like, and again, this comes from setting expectations early. Setting expectations with all of your clients early is just going to benefit you in the long run. She goes, well, the bathrooms look a little blah. We could always ask for that to be recaulked, right? And I said, no. I said, if you want a very serious offer, and at this price point, there's going to be multiple offers. I was like, if you're going to be picky about caulking, we're never going to get a house.
Mhm.
And she was like, really? Yeah, that's the market we're in. Again, you don't want to scare people, but you want to be honest with them, right? When clients want to go very low right out of the gate, you're going to want to make sure that they know that there are repercussions. It's insulting.
Mhm.
It's insulting. I had somebody where on a house we had listed for 700. We didn't go under we didn't go under contract that first weekend. We came to Monday, Tuesday. Gentleman called me and said, well, I'm going to send you over an offer for 680. And I said, I'm going to politely hang up on you now. And he said, what? And I said, we are not willing to go below list price. I said, we have been on the market for 4 days. 4 days. And he goes, okay. So he still gave me an offer at 7, but then wrote the rent. And I told him what else I wanted. I needed a rent back. He wrote the rent back, a 2-week rent back for $1,000 with like $1,000 security department. So this was my reaction. I'm not going to put it on camera, but
Mhm. Mhm.
that was my reaction. But then what I did with that crappy offer was the 2 other showings we had that day, I leveraged it against those, and we ended up at 730. Okay. So that guy, I took his offer and just leveraged it, but I was not going to work with him knowing that he was going to try to come in 20,000 under asking, 3 days on, 2-3 days on the market. He already showed his hand that he wanted all of this, because whenever I told him we weren't taking his offer and I told him that his post-closing occupancy was kind of insulting, he was like, well, what should I have written? He had no training. He had no self-awareness about what was going on in the market. And again, that's why I love our office and our brokerage, because whether or not you're doing tons of business, what is sort of expected out there and how it ebbs and flows. He insulted me. He went on my list of people I don't want to work with. I have a book that says the complete list of people I want to punch in the face. He's in that book now, right? I know the agents I don't want to work with. All right,
Hey,
so
Amanda.
yes.
I'm sorry, it's Jackie. I'm having issues with my camera. Trust me, I would love to show my mug, but I've been playing around with it and I'm not paying attention, so I had to stop.
No worries.
First of all, that dialogue was awesome. Love that. I have a question though about rent backs. Now, in a normal market, what would be you know, something that would be acceptable to offer or negotiate. I know this market, it's like everyone's throwing everything in just, you know, just to get the deal, but in a normal market.
So I would, again, I would ask the agent, so do your sellers need a post-closing occupancy? Okay, they do. So sort of tell me about what your expectations are for that post-closing occupancy. I just asked a very open-ended question. Because
Okay.
I didn't say, do you guys expect a free post-closing occupancy?
Mhm.
Are you guys okay paying for a post-closing occupancy? All I asked was, what do you expect? And that's gonna tell you exactly what you're gonna need to do. If they say, well, they'd be willing, you know, to pay for a post-closing occupancy, you know, I would be, you know, me personally, because I fight for my sellers to get theirs for free.
Mhm.
So if you're calling me, I'm gonna just be I'm gonna be a bit of a hard ass, and I'm gonna tell you my sellers want it for free, and I'm not giving you a security deposit either. And I have
Even
other
in a
people.
normal market?
We haven't had a normal market for a really long
Yeah.
time. Now, if it was a
Okay.
truly normal market, I would say, I'd be like, okay, well, you know, I get that you guys really need the house and they do need some extra time. So why don't you throw out to me what you think is fair and we'll take it from there. And odds are I'm gonna negotiate them down.
Okay.
Because if I'm working for my seller, I'm trying to get my seller to pay as little as possible once they have closed. So you're gonna need to fill out that situation. Again, if you're in a multiple offer situation, nickel and diming the seller on a post-closing occupancy is not gonna get you any warm and fuzzies. Now, if you're the only offer and they've been on the market for a while, again, I'd say, do they need a post-closing occupancy? Yes. Okay, what are your expectations for that? And then you negotiate.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
My buyers have done quite a few of the free rent backs, but they have asked for a security deposit, a small one, like $1,000 on a, you know, $600,000 house. And for them, that was just the little protection they needed to know the house would be clean when they got it, when they finally got in. But the only one we even got feedback on it was 2 months free rent back. And the seller said that really wasn't enough and she wasn't sure where she was going to, she was moving out of state and she really wasn't sure. And we're like, we just gave you 2 free months rent. You can afford to rent an apartment or a hotel room in Florida when you get there to look for a house. So we got insulted with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it happens, and people.
That was in April.
Yeah, and a lot of agents are just not self-aware enough to not be insulting, right?
Yeah.
So be that agent so you're not insulting the seller out of the gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, so we talked about wanting to come in low, wanting to ask for inspection objections. In this market, it's just, if you really want to win. But I always say with the inspection objections, so here's another one of my, I guess, Amanda-isms or Amanda's rules of thumb. It sucks to be a buyer and not be able to ask for anything. It does.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always tell my buyers, look, I'm not telling you to waive an inspection. I would never tell you to not have an inspection. Always get an inspection.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, we're saying we're not going to ask for anything major. Now, if there is something major, call that agent and say, hey, you know, before we have to terminate, because the foundation has an issue, I just wanted to call you and tell you about this and see if there was any opportunity to work together.
Mm-hmm.
If they're like, we're not working with you, that's when I terminate and I send over the inspection and then guess what? Once you as a seller have that inspection, you have to convey that to everybody. So once they know that they have foundation issues, if they try to not want to be helpful and work there, you already said you can terminate and get your buyers their earnest money back, but they'll be stuck forever with that disclosure until they make a fix or find somebody who's willing to take it on. So now I just lost my train of thought. Oh, for my buyers this past summer that we've closed on where they could not do anything, I actually just went ahead and told them, I'm going to buy you a 1-year home warranty. So if anything breaks, if the appliances go out or something like that, that you're covered by that. Now you have to talk to home warranty companies. And again, you're not going to want to make sure, you're going to want to make sure that it helps that you're not filing an inspection objection, but I'm also not sending something over to the home, to the home warranty company. So for example, if it says in your inspection, the AC is well past life expectancy and is not functioning properly, home warranty company is not gonna fix that. If it says AC is 10 years old and needs serviced, home warranty will cover that. Again, so home warranty, depending on the home warranty, I use 210 home warranty, and I can give you my salesperson's name. Her name's Karen Heineman. And that's what I've been doing just to help my buyers, right? I know that it sucks to have to waive all of the objections, so I'm gonna buy you a home warranty. Yeah.
What's the potential cost for that? And also what's the timing? Do you wait until contracts are signed?
Yep, so you order it once contracts are signed. It doesn't actually kick in until the day of closing. Though actually, if you're doing a post-closing occupancy, they have essentially seller's coverage that you can add on to that to cover the seller while they're still living in the house. The cost of that is, I wanna say it's $499 for the basic package. And then I usually add on the $50 to cover, I forget what it is. Oh, I buy down the rate. So instead of them having to pay $100 like for people coming out, I buy it down, so it's only $75.
Okay.
Okay, so, and I can tell you, like, the cool thing about them is I let them know, they'll come in for free and change the keys on your house. They're gonna come in, if you wanna go ahead and get your, say the AC and the HVAC need to be cleaned and serviced, get that done. If, say the fridge cracks out in the next year and they can't fix it, they pay for a new fridge. I mean, there are so many ways in this case where you can show that value to your buyer and be a hero, even though they feel like they're giving up something, right? So on the inspection objection piece, I like to offer the home warranty. Now, I get that we're not all able to do that. I wasn't able to do that when I first started out, but now it's kind of like I look at most of my buyers, warranty to. So I did, I shopped around. There are more expensive home warranties. I think this one is affordable and it covers a lot and they do a good job. And who doesn't want to have their locks changed when you move into a new house?
Yeah.
Who knows who has that key? So again, you're like, hey, Mr. Buyer, I'm looking out for you and your family's safety and security. All right, so we're also let's talk about an offer deadline. So last night I got an offer at about 7:30.
Was it midnight?
11 p.m. So I had 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. I had 4 hours when I was already exhausted. And I basically got right back to her last night and we had a great conversation and I told her what I wanted in the deal and she gave it to me. I mean, there was a couple things in her deal that were sloppy and I'm gonna counter anyways to revive the deal, but there were things I want to clarify. And so I always say, give people at least 24 hours, but them what they want. People on the Deerfield said, we're not gonna present offers until next Monday. So we're taking offers through Sunday night. Do not give me an offer acceptance deadline before Monday, July 19th at 8 p.m. Because I tell them my expectation is when you submit an offer, I want a lender letter and I will be calling that lender on Monday to verify that these people have what they say they have. And to ask that lender what it's like to work with them. And, tell me about your appraisal process. Tell me about your things. Because I want to make sure, because a lot of people will write offers and say, I'm giving you a $20,000 appraisal gap. And if your client tells you, I'm giving you a $20,000 appraisal gap, you're going to want to ask them, and look, I don't want to be insulting. I just want to make sure you understand. Do you have an extra liquid $20,000 that if you need to bring it to the table, you have it? And as a seller's agent, I'm calling that lender saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith here said that they can bring a $1,000 appraisal gap. Do they have an extra $50,000 in liquid assets? A lot of lenders are like, what?
Well, the contract, you have to aver that you do have
Right,
funds.
but people say that.
I know.
Right. But that's actually more for your down payment. That saying you have the funds, it's a little
Okay,
gray around the
I thought
appraisal
it
gap.
covered everything, so
Yeah.
that's good to know.
It's a little bit of like they might say, I'm putting $200,000 down and giving you a $50,000 appraisal gap. And yes, I have the proof of funds. Usually when I ask for the proof of funds, what I get is the $200,000 proof of funds. And then I have to say, what about that appraisal gap funding? And I found out more often than I care to know that people don't have it.
Yeah.
And they're just banking on it to win the deal and hoping that that happens,
Yeah,
right?
that the appraisal comes in.
That the
higher.
appraisal comes in higher, or if the appraisal comes in low, that even if they say they'll bring that gap, that you'd be willing to negotiate, because here's the thing. Unless their earnest money became hard, they can still terminate on appraisal.
And even that earnest money going hard is not.
And not even 100,
Yeah.
right? So again, things to talk about with your buyer. Do we have an appraisal gap? If we're going over asking, do you actually have those funds? And that's where your little quick CMA too, do you think this house is gonna appraise? You know, you have to look at all of these facets for your buyer. So please don't give an offer deadline less than 24 hours. To me, it's not gonna make you more endearing to me in any way, shape or form. It's actually gonna make me annoyed. And I also look at it a bit of, once I know you really want the offer, if I need to counter that offer, I'm gonna take advantage. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do today, because she left some things out that I'm gonna counter on, and they're little. It's like paying the HOA transfer fee and status letter, which is about $355, but she didn't mark it. Somebody has to pay for it. So guess what? In my counter, I'm gonna clarify that they're paying for it. The other thing I would suggest, it'll say like appliances, what's included. If you're at the house with your buyer and your buyer really wants that house, write down the make of the appliances. Write down GE dishwasher, Whirlpool stainless steel refrigerator, Bosch, I don't know how to say, dishwasher. Is the Ring doorbell going to be included? Do your people, because I talk to my buyers and sellers this way, right? We talk about everybody exempt sellers, personal property, and staging items, right? So what's personal property? If you would think of your house as a purse and you could turn it over and shake it, right? Everything that's not attached is going to fall out, but everything that's attached in there is going to stay in. That's usually what conveys with the house. I always like to be very clear about things like TV brackets on the walls. Are those going to be included? I usually ask for them, not the TV, the bracket in the wall, right? Because a lot of sellers are going to pull that out and leave a gaping hole in the wall. Or if they're not going to include them, I want to put in there that, seller's going to remove those and have the wall patched. Or if your person's planning on just bringing one in and putting it in, you want to think about these things. Because whenever I was in your shoes, and this is a story that Margaret told me, there was a buyer and seller, and the buyers were buying a very fancy house, and the house had Sub-Zero and Wolf and Viking and all of that, and all they wrote in there was refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave. The sellers took the really nice stuff and replaced it with the Sears Dent collection. So what do you think happened to that? And that's all that was said in the contract. What do you think happened? That listing agent and that buying agent ended up splitting all brand new high-level appliances. Protect yourself, protect your sellers, protect your buyers. Be very specific. Marquet over at Land Title laughs at me all the time because she'll read in your closing, here's what conveys the property. And most people are like, dishwasher, microwave. She knows it's fine. And she's like, GE dishwasher, Whirlpool microwave, da-da-da-da-da, steam such and such. Like, I don't leave, curtains, curtain rods, TV brackets. I don't leave anything to the imagination. Don't do that to your buyers. Be very specific about what you are asking for. And, again, in that call to them, is there anything, I noticed here in the MLS, it says that the refrigerator is excluded. I know that, supply chain's been rough right now getting a refrigerator. Would they be, willing to even talk about that refrigerator, like as a personal bill of sale, or is that like a really hard no? Ask them.
What about things that are going to be left behind unless you say specifically, get it out of there?
Right. So
old pickup trucks, hot tubs.
Yeah. So I always ask them again, hot tub, it's a fix, right? Are they taking the hot tub, or are we, it's usually in the MLS.
Yeah.
A lot of times I like to call them the beer fridge. The beer fridge is in,
Yeah.
Or the really great shelving that's all built into the garage.
Yeah.
Ask the selling agent, is that okay for us to ask for? Are they planning on including that, or is that excluded? Because not everybody's really great at putting all of that in there. Or they might be like, oh, I only went to the house once and I had no idea that there was even a Ring doorbell. Sometimes you have to be smarter than the listing agent. Hopefully the listing agent has done their job. But like Debbie always says, go into a deal knowing that you might have to do both sides of it. right? So make sure you're really clear about what's included and what's excluded. And write the exclusions the same way. I do. I say, exclusion, seller's personal property, including
Yeah.
garage,
Usually it's-
refrigerator,
it's
garage.
a busted down hot tub.
Right.
Like,
So-
get it out of there.
And that's the thing, if something's non-operational,
Yeah.
you can certainly negotiate on, well, the hot tub's completely non-operational. We're not asking you to fix it. We don't want it, but we would like to see it gotten rid of. And I also include very details in your post-closing occupancy. So if you have buyers and they're giving that seller a post-closing occupancy, you're gonna wanna write in there very specifically what you want, how you want that house to convey. I write in there, I want the house professionally cleaned. Okay, doesn't mean I'm asking for carpet. If they want carpets cleaned, I always tell my buyers, you're gonna probably need to get your own carpets cleaned. But the house should be clean, free of all trash, right? Maybe I ask in there, I'd like to have the garage blown out. So for example, people that I had that moved to Maui, so one of the things we do on our listings is we pay for the move out clean. Because most of the people like that are buying our houses are moving into my neighborhood, they're my neighbor. I don't want them to move in and be like, Amanda sold me a house and it was dirty as hell inside. And that's a reflection more on me than it even is of my seller, right? So we have our houses professionally cleaned on move out, and that means, refrigerators, because people leave everything in the fridge, have all the appliances cleaned out, they wipe out the cabinets, mop the floors, clean the bathrooms, and then my handyman comes in if there's always trash in the garage. They take all the trash out of the garage. Always ask, hey, we leave paint and stuff like that. Always leave like paint and materials that are useful. Hopefully they're not scattered all over the garage as a total mess. And then my guy comes in and he blows out the garage. Or honestly, if you have a leaf blower, it's amazing how much just blowing out a garage makes it look clean. So when you're writing your post-closing occupancy, what do you expect for your buyer? That house should be conveyed in a, professionally clean, free and clear of all trash, blah, 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 right? Oh my God, everybody's calling me this morning. I told them I'm in classes, I can't talk to you. So now you've got sort of everything in your offer.
What was the uncle's name?
Oh, Uncle Jim Bob? Jimbo. I did go to school in West Virginia, so so now you've talked through basically all of the components and you're gonna present your offer to the seller. And once you present your offer, the ball truly is in the seller's court, okay? Presenting the offer. I can't see what's on this slide. Hold on. All right, so this is on the seller side. So anyways, let me just go back to, when you're the buyer's agent and you present the offer to the listing agent, this is what I do, and I will tell you, and I do just so you guys know, I do 3/4 listings to buys. So my business is very heavy on the listing side and a lot lighter on the buy side. This is what I want to see, and I'm just going to share with you. When you send over your offer, make sure you have called. Make sure you've called. I'm going to text Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie, offer's coming over. And then in my email, I'm going to write a cover letter because not all agents are going to present your offer in the light that you would like them to. Most agents are going to forward your email to their seller to read and look at. So basically write your email like you're writing it to the seller. Hey, Stephanie, per our discussion, please find attached our offer. I'm going to outline below the highlights. Our offer price is blah, blah, blah. If you have an escalation, we're offering to escalate up to, whatever with a bona fide offer. We are waiving inspection objection. We will still have an inspection and we'll reserve the right to terminate. We're doing a 30-day closing. Maybe you say, we're going to make earnest money hard or non-refundable after inspection, just to show you how confident we are in getting to the closing table. Right. I'm also including a post-closing occupancy for 30 days after closing. In that post-closing occupancy, we are not asking for rent back. I'm going to usually start with I'd like a $500 to $1,000 security deposit. I pick one, and then usually a little higher, and they usually negotiate back. Unless that person has told me they absolutely have multiple offers and will not negotiate on that, I don't push the envelope. To say, but as a part of the post-closing occupancy, we want to verify that they have insurance, renter's insurance, and that these are what we would expect of the home whenever they convey it to us to take possession, cleaning,
Mhm.
If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to call me. We really want this property. Should you have other competing offers, please give me a call and let me be a partner and go back to my, buyers on that. The buyers might not be able to do anything more, and don't go up without asking for proof that they have another offer.
Oh, yeah.
I will tell you, there are a lot of people that will just, when I tell them I have a full price offer in hand, and I do, it might have expired last night, but I have a full price offer in hand, they go, okay. Or I say, I already have an escalation to such and such. Say, could I just get documentation of that for our escalation clause?
The escalation clause does say that there has to be.
Yes, but
Proof of an
so
offer.
many, but it is
Yeah.
up to you as the buyer's agent
that.
to ask for it. Now, me as a listing agent, if I'm doing an amend extend, so say they're like, okay, well, we'll let our escalation clause kick in. Does anybody not know what an escalation clause is? So just real quick, it is, you're offering to go over by a certain amount because of a bona fide offer. So say you put in an offer at 400 and you say you're willing to go up to 420 to beat another offer, and say they have another offer in hand that's at 415, and you said, I'll beat any other offer by $1,000 up to 420. If they're at 415, you're at 416 now, right? If they have an offer at 418, you're at 419. You're maxing, but make sure you put in an N number.
Mhm.
I have actually had people not put N numbers, and I call them and I go, so what are your people willing to go up to? And they're like, what do you mean? And I go, are you willing to go up to $1 million? Well, no. Well, then you need to put in a cap
Yeah.
on that, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what you'll do is you'll actually go back with an amend extend and say, here's proof of that other offer. The amend extend is now establishing your price of whatever it was. Gotta be kind of different when you're representing the seller.
When you're
Yeah.
talking about the email, you're talking about, that would be the cover letter.
Yep,
Yeah.
the email is your cover letter. So you're outlining and promoting your own offer.
I often include information on who the lender is and that the lender will be calling you.
Yes, always include your lender letter. And again, this is why having a local or a lender that's willing to be your partner is important. If I know that I get an offer with a cover letter, the lender letter with it, and then the lender calls me, I know these people are really serious and they have their shit together, right? The person yesterday who sent me an EXP offer, who never called me, who then sent me like a piecemeal 3 emails with different things in it. Do you think that that behooved her to me when I'm expecting probably 17 to 20 offers on a property?
Yeah.
But what her offer did give me an opportunity to say is, I do have a over full price offer in hand. We are already at an escalation to 420 in our first day on the market.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'll be honest, I'm trying to get this house to 450. That's where I think it should be. But I think the best way to push it there, instead of starting it at 425, I have this weird thing where I think pricing on 25s is like a voodoo number. Because everything I price at something with a 25 does not move quickly. I don't know what it is.
I have a lot of those. I think of myself as very rational, and then I have all of these.
Yeah, I don't like 25. 725 in particular is a voodoo number. I don't use it. And I've listed 2 houses at 725, and that's what's taught me it's a voodoo number. And then I've watched other ones at 725 voodoo number. Don't like it.
You don't learn that in real estate school.
You don't learn voodoo numbers in real estate school. You learn them here. So, make sure you're setting your buyers up for success. Whether this is your first offer you've ever written or not, if you do these steps, you will look like a rock star. They will think that you have done tons of deals.
And you know what's nice, because I'm writing my, let's see, 8th offer for one particular couple today, and I've kept every draft just as a Word file of the email I've sent. So I just go in, copy and paste, change anything that needs to be done, and then I've got that one going forward too. So once you write it, you just reuse it for the same buyers.
Yeah. So, again, calling that seller's agent is going to tell you everything that you really need to know. Most sellers agents will be open and tell you what they want. They should be. They should tell you what they want. Tell me what you want. I want to make this a win-win. What do you want? What do you need? But then verify, right? If they tell you you've got to be, if you're at a $400,000 house and I tell you right off the bat, you need to be at 450. So do you have offers in hand? Yeah, I actually have one that's escalating up to 420 right now. Okay. So you're going to know that you're going to probably have to beat 420. Now, if you're really going to write the deal, you can ask for proof. Most people are going to provide you proof after you write the offer with your escalation in it. Then I'm going to give you that, because I'm not going to show you my whole hand, right? But that's just because I'm sneaky in a good way. So any ahas, what are your biggest maybe takeaways from putting together an offer on the buyer side? I'm gonna shut up for a few minutes and drink my coffee. Guys online, Casey, Jacqueline.
Who's had success
Yeah.
for your buyers? I haven't had any success yet, so I want to hear a good story. How you did it.
Hard.
It's not a personal story, but I do have one from my team. They were going up against multiple offers for a condo, and they ended up winning the listing and not being the highest offer, actually.
It happens.
And what the difference was that my team lead did call the listing agent, asked what they were looking for, and stayed in constant communication, and put in an offer that, again, wasn't the highest one, but the communication and just the way that everything was presented got them to pick that one because of, you know, their feeling security and where they have their shit together and they're going to get us to the closing table. There were some things that were disclosed as well, because the listing agent was like, we want someone that's like no fuss. We want someone that's gonna, you know, fit in with the community. Apparently the community was predominantly elderly people, but wasn't designated to just be
Right,
for
was on the
elderly.
senior properties.
Right. And the client was part of the SWAT team and, you know, like decorated army veteran and stuff like that. And that was something that they really liked. They were like, oh yeah, that guy looks like he's no fuss. He's gonna be no fuss and he's gonna be serious about this. And they won. And again, you know, I was so surprised to hear that they were not the highest offer. And
There are other things that will absolutely tug on people's heartstrings. One of the things we did not talk about is love letters. So I'm gonna give you my Jekyll and Hyde on love letters. As a buyer's agent, if it's super competitive and I can potentially have them write a letter and include it in my thing, I will. I do not include a picture. I tell them to please not write anything too personal about themselves that falls into the discrimination categories. Please don't tell them if you are gay, straight, white, black, Asian, or, you know, whatever you are. Yeah, specific religion. Keep it to why you love the house, why it would be a big deal for your family or you to move here. You know, I grew up in this area. We really want to bring our family back. My kid's going to go to the same school I went to. I'm okay with revealing familial status as long as you're not talking about those very specific items. Don't include a picture. I had an agent, my stepfather sold his house in North Carolina. His agent gave him a picture of a multiracial family. I lost my shit. I called that agent and ripped him a new one. I said, how dare you put my uncle or my stepfather in this situation where if he didn't take their offer, they could potentially come back and say it's because they were a multiracial family. Now, he did end up accepting their offer because they were lovely and they had a great offer and all of that. But I had to school that agent. I was like, how dare you put my stepfather in that position?
Yeah.
Don't put don't put other people in that position. But if you can add in some little niceties, sellers love to hear that people love their property. If you know that they made recent improvements or some things they're really proud of, comment on them, even if your people don't really love them. They love that backyard, even if they're like, hey, we're gonna do some work to it. But I know you did all of that work to it and it matters. People are proud of their homes. That's their home, you know? So on the buy side, I love to try to include a love letter. On the list side, very rarely will I convey them unless they are compelling and written in a way where I'm like, these people have the best offer and they have this cute love letter and maybe this will help push it over the edge. But again, I'm not including a picture and I'm scrubbing it for any sort of information that could be considered discriminatory.
Bob had a house that sold to, it wasn't the highest offer either, by any means. And they sold it to him because they had gone through, like, there was a family and they had gone through like 6 offers, hadn't had anything accepted. They couldn't go up higher. And that family just said, we're giving back to somebody who needs it. And it wasn't about the money.
Yeah.
So,
And sometimes it's not. And again, it just, as a buyer's agent, it behooves you to do your homework. to call, to be
Yeah.
friendly, to see what they need. Because in those conversations, you're picking up whatever you need. And also, I'll be honest with you, like when I talk to an agent who's giving me an offer, I ask them, what's it like to work with you?
Mhm.
What's sort of your perspective on working with this listing agent? I want to hear from them, like, you know, we both should represent our sides, but we need to be professionals. We need to be even keeled. And it's our job to work together to get to the table. If they're going to be confrontational and if they're like, they're going to be hard to work with. Sometimes maybe a slightly smaller offer for somebody who you know is going to get to the table,
Yeah.
just like Linda said, represent your client the best you can.
But you still
Question?
have to present that to your client, correct? Even if it-
Absolutely. You
Yeah, I mean,
always present every offer to your client, but that's on the seller side.
It's like the Death Star.
So we'll talk about that.
Can I
So
ask
any
a
other-
question?
Please do.
When you ask for proof, when the seller wants proof of, when the buyer's agent wants proof of other offers, as the seller, how do you present that, again, with confidentiality?
Mhm.
You know, you
So
have to
what I
scrub
do-
their names, don't you, to?
Yep, I do.
That-
What I do is I download the PDF of the offer. And in Adobe, there's stamps, and there is one that says confidential, and you can actually stamp out their name, their address, any other personal information. I stamp out I do leave the agent, because you want to show that it is a real agent, right? You know, in a real contract, I leave the price and all of the other provisions in there. And if they ask me for that proof in advance, that's what I give them. But it has all of the
In the end,
buyer's
you're kind
name.
of still trusting that the agent is not making it up, right? Okay.
Yep. Yep, they are. And that they're, as a buyer's agent, have healthy skepticism. But again, in this market, most people are having multiple offers, right?
There's some sparkling water in there, in the door.
Sorry, people coming in. So, you know, ask, but it's, the dance is to not be insulting, right? The dance is to not be insulting. I was gonna close the door, but no, I didn't. Okay, any other questions from buyer's perspective? Now we're gonna flip the switch and we're gonna spend our next hour talking about being the seller's agent. This is where I like to talk. This is my favorite.
Looks like you have a couple of chat.
Do I have chat messages? Here, hold on, let me see here.
They might have already asked them, I don't know.
Val says post-closing doesn't typically happen in a balanced or buyer's market. Somebody might need it, but you're probably gonna have to pay for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hear you, thank you. Now in this market, here's the other thing I will just tell you about post-closing occupancies. I do tell my sellers, yes, you could get a 60-day post-closing occupancy. Does everybody know why it's 60 days? Just in case anybody doesn't. When you are buying a home and you are stating to the lender that that home is going to be your primary residence, you are able to have different loans on that house. If it is a rental property, for instance, because I'm working with some investors right now, they have to put 25% down. So if you buy that house and you don't occupy it in 60 days, that's not your primary residence and that becomes loan fraud. That's why there's a 60-day threshold. All people don't understand, well, why can't I have it for more than 60 days? Because this is their primary residence, and after 60 days, that becomes a rent. It basically looks like a rental, and basically everybody's committing loan fraud. We're not doing that. I also tell people, post-closing occupancy, I prefer as much as possible to shorten it. Because there's a whole bunch of things that can happen when you live in a house that you don't own anymore.
Mhm.
And if we're in that situation where there's not a security deposit and there's not a rent back, basically post-closing occupancy then falls under the state of Colorado rental agreements. And that means you can't charge for anything other than normal wear and tear. And if you have no security deposit, they're saying they're 60 days. I have somebody who's doing this and it makes me a nervous freaking wreck. They're finally getting out at the end of July. And I'm having the house cleaned and the windows cleaned because I'm terrified as to what that house is gonna look like. Even though I've asked them to have it cleaned, I don't know if I
Yeah.
trust the people, and the agent lives super far south. I know the agent's not gonna come over and check like I would to make sure that the house is clean. So just, again, healthy sense of skepticism, explain to your client, you know. Also, if you have clients that are moving out, I've seen with washing machines, people taking, you know, their washing machines, which, whatever, I take mine too. Make sure that you explain to them, make sure you have the water turned off to that. I've had 2 houses now where they've had the washing machines removed, didn't turn off that little spigot back there, and it dripped and caused a leak. There was no security deposit, there was no rent back. All the new buyer could do was file an insurance claim. So that made us feel like, so again, there's opportunities for things to go wrong. Now, you've fulfilled your end of the deal essentially, but the first person when something goes wrong that they're gonna turn around and look to, is you. So just FYI, post-closing occupancies, sellers are like, yeah, I get to live in my house rent-free for 2 months. I tell them, I wanna make sure that we have insurance. And, you know, if we're not gonna, and again, I'm gonna negotiate to not give them anything.
Right.
But I'm gonna give them the security of knowing that they have insurance, and expect for your seller to provide proof of insurance at closing from their lender, that they have insurance through when they're there. Because if that house burns down and they're living in it and they don't own it anymore, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
And if they don't have insurance, ooh, that's gonna get ugly. So make sure that they have proof of insurance. I always ask for the seller's proof. When I'm the buyer's agent, I ask for it. I said, I wanna see it at closing. Or we're not
It
finding.
just occurs to me, if someone's living in rent-free in their house for 2 months in the summer and they decide, well, I'm not gonna pay to water the lawn anymore. Or I'm not gonna spend time pulling weeds, or, you know, suddenly that you own that property and you're getting weed notices, or the grass hasn't been cut or whatever, so.
Yeah, you want to be very upfront. Like, so in a post-closing occupancy agreement, it does say that you will keep the property,
Yeah,
you know, but you might need to spell out if there's a big garden or a big yard. Because a lot, like, I'll tell you on this other one, the guy was like, I left the house, and the seller's like, oh, lawn needs cut. He says, nah, I don't own the house anymore. So what did I do? Hired somebody to come over and mow the lawn, because he was being an asshole. But that would probably come back and bite him in the ass somewhere else.
Do you ever ask to be, for the new owners to be listed as an interested party on the insurance by chance? Like, I know in property management, we would ask for that, so then, you know, a lot of renters would get the insurance, provide the proof, and then the next day go and cancel it, so then they get a refund for whatever premiums they paid. So being listed as an interested party.
That's a new one.
Being listed as an interested party, you're not part of the policy, but you would get notified if the policy changes, or if the policy gets canceled, if they're behind on payments,
Thank you for teaching the teacher. I have not gotten that one. I'm taking that away today too. And I'm gonna be like, oh, and we'll do this, and we're gonna ask for that. Thank you for making me even smarter. I appreciate that. I've never done that. No, and I didn't even really know that that was an option. It's like I always tell people, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an insurance agent. I jokingly say I only play one on TV. I know enough to be dangerous, but that's when you need to talk to somebody. But that's a great point, and I'm gonna start asking that.
Just so you know, like some insurance agents, just because they're being lazy, they're just like, no, we don't do that. But yes, they do. You just need to talk to the right person. They just don't want to like redo the policy to include your landlord or whoever is requesting it.
let me call
To
my
be
friend
listed
Linda
on the-
Arcos.
Yes,
See if that's-
let's call Linda on that one. All right, any other questions or thoughts on representing the buyer on the deal? So again, just, your buyer's gonna ask you a couple of items, like, where is do you guys know all the opportunities for your buyer to get out of the deal? So let's go over that real quick. So buyers in the state of Colorado, and I always explain this to my sellers, buyers in the state of Colorado have several opportunities to get out of a deal. A seller has very little opportunity to get out of a deal. So your first opportunity to get out of a deal would be to not turn in your earnest money. Don't be that agent though. You should know your clients well enough to know if they're gonna be like, oh, I have cold feet, I'm not turning in my earnest money. The next one would be your inspection. You can, as a buyer, your buyer can just say, I'm terminating over inspection. You don't even have to give a reason. It's nice for you to. I one time had cash buyers terminate over caulking in a bathroom, and I'm not kidding. But they had cold feet, and you know what's funny? I ran into their agent a year and a half later. They're still looking for a house. I
Were
don't
they
know.
in the caulking aisle?
Right, exactly. Well, they have cash and they're picky. And honestly, cash buyers are sometimes a lot of big of a pain in the ass, to be truthful. They can also get out under appraisal, right? So if the house doesn't appraise and you guys can't negotiate coming to some sort of an agreement, or if you already had that appraisal gap, and like there was one house in Candelas that was under contract at 540, the house appraised at 570. They had an appraisal gap, they paid up to 612 with that appraisal gap, and that's what the house ended up closing at. I mean, again, that's why do your CMAs, look at that. They can also get out then for not qualifying for their loan.
Yeah.
So when we go more in depth into writing a contract in another class, and I might actually see if they'll let me teach one day, but when I'm the buyer's agent, I'm writing that acceptance, that loan termination as close as I can to the closing date.
Yeah.
When I'm the seller's agent, I absolutely will not accept one less than 1 week. So again, you have to figure out who you're dealing with, and one of the ways you can show that your offer is really, really strong is by taking out the loan termination date. And then you essentially are representing yourself as, we're getting to the table no matter what.
And it's not just that they don't qualify for the loan, it could be that they don't like the terms of the loan. Like
Right, or they
suddenly
lost their
the
job.
interest, the interest rate isn't what they wanted,
Right.
it's not locked in.
But they should already be, with a good pre-approval letter,
Right.
you should already be locked
They
into
should.
a good rate.
But this is an excuse,
yeah.
if you don't want, if you
Right.
suddenly don't wanna buy the house.
It's
that's just
usually
basic
more
news.
that, I actually know of one person, and I have this agent also on my do not work with list. This agent was actually buying a house for themselves in our neighborhood, and they terminated the day of closing.
See, I couldn't get excited until the.
So they
English
lost their
contract.
earnest, they lost their earnest money, so the people kept the $10,000 in earnest money. Whose house did they come and try to see next? Mine. I declined. Said, not seeing you, we're not working with you. He keeps coming and looking and stuff like that. I'm not working with you. I was like, I know who you are. We all know who you are. So if you are that agent, people talk. People will tell you who they are. So you
Is
have a
he
lot of
on your punch in the face list?
Yeah, he is on my punch in the face list. Well, I didn't have that listing. That wouldn't have happened if I was their agent. But I didn't like the wife and I were friends, and the seller's husband and I didn't get along. And I honestly wouldn't have wanted to represent their listing because the house smelled like dog poop. Anyways, and they didn't think that was a problem. And that's not my brand. Whatever. But your sellers really don't have much opportunity to get out of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Some sellers get out of a deal by just being assholes. If somebody's like, well, I need a radon mitigation system because that's health and safety, and they're like, I'm not giving you one. Maybe because I've had sellers before go, well, if we're like a few weeks in and we get a better offer, can I just go with that better offer? I said, no. Once you sign and commit, you are committed pretty much unless the buyer backs out.
Mm-hmm.
And in other states, it's not like that. I have somebody from Mississippi, we're selling their house. He's like, he was so surprised to find out that his unfinished basement square footage did not count the same as his upstairs square footage. He's like, well, the people across the street, I said, those people across the street, that their basement's finished and a walkout and has views of the mountains. Your basement is a basement and is unfinished.
That ain't how it works.
That's not how it works.
Mississippi.
Yeah, that's not over in
It's not what
Mississippi.
my Uncle Jim Bob said.
Yeah, that's not Uncle Jim Bob. So, and these are things where, and I'm sure, we've talked about buyer's side for an hour and 15 minutes now. It is complicated.
It's the heart.
And there is a lot, but if you, again, to what I said on Tuesday, if you're a student of the business, right? I learn something new every day. Linda just taught me something new. I learn something new every day. And you will also sort of find your footing. You will find sort of where you're comfortable in asking people questions. It comes with time and practice. Just do it. Like Jim Carroll says, doing something works, doing nothing doesn't. Even if it's not perfect, keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
And can I add to that?
Yeah.
I would say don't be afraid to say something that the other person might not want to hear, whether that's your clients or the other agent. So the house I just closed on, we had a kind of as is written into the MLS, and the offer we received pretty much was, we're not going to worry, this house looks great. And then the inspection came back and it was nitpicky things.
Mm-hmm.
And my sellers were like, no, we're not gonna do that. Like, no, she's a data analyst. She's gonna work at home. We're not gonna do anything with electricity because she's gonna want that whole system fixed. She's already said she wants new lighting, an on-off switch that we don't even, here's the warranty for that system. So I had to go back and very nicely say to the sellers or to the buyer's agent, you know, we just feel like these are such nitpicky little things. And I know your buyer is going to want to have these done to her specifications anyway. And honestly, we don't want any objections to the inspections, and we got it. You know, just by clearly communicating. And I didn't make it hard and fast, but I was just like, my sellers are really not anxious to do any more work on that house.
I also love that some people will say, oh, we're not gonna be nitpicky, because there's a sentence you could write in there, like basically, we will limit our inspection items to health and safety. I look for that, but here's the thing, it means nothing.
Yeah,
It means
is health
nothing.
and safety.
And then I've actually had people come back and ask me for random things. And so the way I play it is I call that agent, the buyer's agent, and I say, yeah, so Jim, got your inspection objection. Gotta tell you, I'm a little confused. When we talked, you know, 2 weeks ago and got this deal off the ground, you guys told me you weren't gonna be picky. You weren't gonna, you know, ask for anything other than health and safety. And in my neighborhood, radon is usually the biggest health and safety item. And I always tell sellers, put the damn radon system in. You should. You should. I can't believe you've lived here with 14% radon for 2 years. Please put the radon mitigation system in.
Costs like
$1,000. And I have somebody I can even give you, number one radon, who I got from Margaret. They have done probably 25 radon mitigation systems in Candelas now. And I tell them, I'm gonna give you my guy, you tell him you're working with me, and he'll give you $100 off. It'll bring it under $1,000. It's like $985. But you can negotiate. I mean, if it's really something big, I would encourage your seller to negotiate on something really big, right? Because here's the thing, that buyer, like I told you, you walk away and you send them that inspection report and you hold their feet to the fire so they can't do this to somebody else, right? But again, if you're representing the seller, you say to them, look, you know, they're telling me this is wrong. They're gonna probably give us the inspection report, and then we're gonna have to convey that. And so do you wanna nip this in the bud now and potentially even negotiate on it where you're not spending all the money to fix it? A lot of times buyers will work with you if you're just willing to do something. Or do you want to go back on the market and convey this, and odds are we're going to have to fix the whole thing? Just be honest, right?
That's another thing, is having a good inspector that you work with for your buyers, because if you have a good inspector, they will educate your buyer to say, these things are things you can do on yourself. This might be something.
Right. And inspectors do have to CYA, cover their own, you know what, and they have to articulate everything, right? Because if something small becomes something big, that buyer could potentially come back and go after the inspector for not exposing.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah, they can come back after him and expose him. So get to know if you're, I mean, even if you're just, we used to have folks like inspectors come in and actually do classes on inspections. I'm gonna actually talk to Market Center and see if we can't get, that's how I met mine. Alpine Building Performance is the company I use. The guy who owns it is a structural engineer, and he hires, in particular, he has a guy on his staff who used to work for Tri-Point Homes. So as a part of my buying business, I provide all of my new build clients a pre-drywall inspection. I pay for it. It's like $250. Because when you walk through a pre-drywall inspection, I don't know what I'm looking at. I have no idea if things are grounded properly. I have no idea what I should be looking for. And there's a lot of problems in new builds because production builders are assholes, and they look to just get it done, and they have all these tradespeople that they shop it out to. And we have found decent to significant stuff in every single house. Then we give that to the builder, and the builder is required to fix it.
I bet you look super cute in a hard hat.
I do. I do.
I even have an inspector that has offered to, if I go to a showing with a buyer, that he will come with us for free and do like a pre-inspection.
That's really nice.
While we're seeing the house.
That's really nice as well.
They can also talk someone off the ledge. Like when I was buying my first place, I never imagined I would be buying and owning a place. And I was at my inspection.
You know,
What?
may I get a
Something out of the drawer?
out there?
You may not.
Like this one?
I think so, we're looking at,
Jamie, you are hard this morning.
there it is.
See, she's learned, she's negotiating.
The best part is I sent Jamie a text message like half an hour ago. Folder,
You
and she
did.
is so.
She's so engrossed in her
that you can
education.
see it, everyone else probably has 0 unread messages, but Jamie's is.
So what I was saying was, I was at my inspection and he started going over, you know, the things that he had found, and I was like, how do people buy houses like this? It was my first time buying, but you know, he was able to talk me off a ledge and explain, you know, what the list was. He's like, it's more of a honey-do list. You know, I don't say this often, but this is pretty clean compared to others I've seen and yada, yada. And then gave other experiences that he has seen. And one of them was a new build, actually. So it was good because then, you know, like you said, emotions are running high and you can, you know, hang on to that fear and then just get out.
And from the seller point of view, there's a lot of fear around inspection. Like when I sold my little house in New Mexico, there was a drip under the kitchen sink and I'm like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I never got that fixed. And oh my God, what if that means all the you know, your mind just races. So even if you know the house is in good shape, it's for the seller, I think always just a sigh of relief when it gets through inspection.
Yeah, it always is. I always tell my sellers that the two biggest hurdles are always going to be inspection and appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can make sure that we price your house correctly from the start, we're not going to have that second hurdle is not going to be an issue. The first one is always, again, why when you're talking to that buyer's agent or talking to the seller's agent, you're feeling them out. What are they going to be like to work with? Are they going to be a hard ass? Are they going to be willing to negotiate? Now, I'm a hard ass, but I get it. I'm willing to negotiate, but I'm not going to let you know that up front. Because I want to see what kind of where you are. Like, well, if they don't get this, they're gonna, you know, terminate. Well, I had, again, dealing with sellers with unrealistic expectations. A $1.125 million house, radon. They asked for a radon mitigation system. My sellers didn't want to give it to them. We're at 1.155, 30,000 over asking. Doesn't want to give them the AV equipment. Didn't want to give them the radon. Didn't want to have the roof fixed. I told them, you need to have the roof fixed and you should give them the radon mitigation system. So we went from nothing to $900 on the radon mitigation system. And so when I had to tell the buyer's agent that, he's like, and Brittany Heckenberg and I both know him, I really like this guy. I actually really want Charles to recruit him back to KW. It's like, why the nickel and diming? I said, Brady, if you knew where we started to where I got this, it's very different. He said, I understand. And then again, I said, I'll even throw in the other $100 for the radon. He said, that won't be necessary. He said, I'll do it. Okay. He's like, I appreciate that you were able to get them from nothing to 900. I said, you're welcome. And we're having it installed before they move in. They're paying for it. It's basically being put in on the day of closing. I got everything set up. And so they were still, everybody felt like a win-win, right? My cheapskate sellers still felt like they won because they kept an extra $100 in their AV equipment and got 30,000 over asking. And I guess the buyer feels like they won too. Like, you know, anyways. Listen, communicate, talk to people. Don't be that agent that's like, hell no. I mean, even the way that Stephanie did it, it's great. You call and say, look, hey, you guys said you weren't going to be, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Picky Pants. And, you know, I got to say, what's in this offer is kind of picky and just, you know, not relevant to anything major health and safety. So we don't really feel compelled to address any of this. And
The toilets will go. I'm like, what are you doing on those toilets? Because they don't wiggle.
yeah, I had that before. I had to fix we had to have a toilet more better fixed because the elderly mother thought it jostled a little bit. I said, I'll have my handyman come over. It'll cost you $20. Fix the toilet. So have a good handyman, have a good inspector, and have a good handyman. Those are the things you want to make sure that you're able to bring to your clients. Okay, so we need to talk about representing the seller here, guys. So the goal is to have an offer.
Sit back and relax.
Yeah, to have an agreement that will satisfy both parties. A checklist for reviewing an offer. Address, yes, please make sure the address is right on the house. And also when you're listing a house in the MLS, the first thing that's going to come up in the little screen is going to be usually a very long legal description. So we all pass the, you know, exam. We all know that the legal description is the true, you know, location of the house, not just the address. You can go on land title and pull the correct legal description for nothing. You basically log in, put in all of the information, it gives you the legal description, and then you're basically asking for an O&E, but you don't ever hit submit to pay the $5, but you get the correct legal description. Please use the correct legal description. I literally think there's maybe 10% of agents out there that do. The one that automatically generates into the MLS from Realist is not correct. And those are those long gobbledygook ones, yes.
So something that seems to be fairly new, and maybe it's just that I'm not up on this, but when I first started writing offers back in, say, March, I could go to land title, put in a little something, and you would get the full legal without paying.
Yeah, that's what I do.
But I've noticed that now it's an abbreviated one there until you pay the $5, and then you get the full one.
Do you log in?
I log in.
Really? I haven't had that.
So maybe I'm not logging in,
Maybe
but
you're
that
not
was
logging
something I'm
in.
like, wait a minute, that's still
No,
not
you
the
need to
full.
log in.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to
All
log
right.
in and have an account with land
Good.
title. It benefits you to have an account with land title
Yeah.
anyways, because you can pull marketing information and whatnot. So address, price. You're gonna want to talk, you should have already talked to your seller about what sort of price they want for their house. Where does that price fall? Earnest money. Are they putting down the acceptable amount of earnest money? So, for example, I had some clients buying a house up in Massachusetts. You have to put down like a couple percent of the house for earnest money. So they were buying a $1.1 million house. They had to put like $40,000 down. Here, our earnest money, I kind of have a system where my basic's 5,000, sort of middle of the road, it's like 7,500. Once we start getting up there, so like I have an 850 house, I put 10 on that. If I'm over $1 million, I'm at more like 15 to 20.
Do you worry at all about the court system that would address it, like small claims, anything above 5,000?
No.
Okay, so you just go small, medium, large.
Yeah, I kind of go small, medium, large, depending on the price of the house, right? If somebody's buying $1 million house, they should have more earnest money to show that you're qualified. If it's like this $4,000 or the about $400,000 house, I can't remember, it's on, I think it's $5,000 in earnest money. But again, earnest money is a place where you can show your buyers strength in the buy. You can double your earnest money, triple your earnest money, do a little bit more. A lot of times if it's 5, I tell my buyers to do $7,500 in earnest money, because it shows that you're a more qualified buyer and that you're willing to put more money on the line because you want this house.
So are you saying, like, are you telling the and do
Yeah, and that,
7,500?
and that's all a part of that cover letter. We're increasing our earnest money. We want to show you how qualified we are as a buyer and how serious we are about putting that money on the line to get to closing. So look, make sure that they're doing the earnest money. Time for acceptance. Don't be that agent that gives the thing at 7 o'clock at night and asks for 11. Give people 24 hours. Like, come on. And if they're asking in the MLS like I did, I don't want offer deadlines until Monday night, the 19th. The person that doesn't give me one, guess what? You're immediately going to the bottom of the pile for not following directions. Pre-approval. I always tell people I want your pre-approval and your any sort of loan documentation that your lender can give me. I want that with your offer. I want to know what the financing terms are, and I want to know what their closing date is, because I'm calling that lender the next day and saying, hey, so tell me about your clients, tell me about the strength in their offer, tell me about how you work to get to closing. Do you expect that you can actually close on this date? There are a lot of agents that will write an offer with a closing date that they have not discussed with the lender. Most lenders can get things done anywhere from 22 to 30 business days. Some lenders cannot. Make sure you ask, is such and such a realistic date? But always thank people for their offer. I like when they say, oh, if they call me, and I'm sending over an offer, what are you looking for? And we have that conversation, and I'll sometimes ask them, so how long have you guys been looking? They're like, oh, we've been looking for 6 months. This is the house. They love it, or maybe we just started looking. They like this house. They want to see what happens. Agents will tell you if they're sort of wishy-washy or not. You want to tell them, send me over that pre-approval letter. Are they contingent? Do they have a house to sell? I like to ask them, are they moving here from out of town? Because I'm just quantifying. You can tell it from the offer too, what their home address is, but I like to keep a running list of where people are moving here from, because I consider running Facebook ads in those markets. I like this one. How'd they come up with their offer price? I don't ever ask that. Why'd they select this property? I mean, feel out that, you have that conversation with the agent. If that agent doesn't call you and they send you that offer, you don't get the opportunity to have these conversations, right? So you're kind of like, I don't know.
What are your thoughts on, let's say, an out-of-town buyer that hasn't actually set foot on the property?
Happens a lot.
So
So that's why as a listing agent predominantly, I invest more money into my listings to provide things like a video walkthrough, a 3D tour. So the people who gave me the offer on this house, they are from Utah, but they were here, but there was another person showing it yesterday. And she's like, I'm gonna FaceTime. And I said, I totally appreciate that, that's fine. I said, but it's probably not gonna give them the best experience. I said, wanted to make sure that you were aware that there are virtual tours on the MLS, or I can send you my branded property website. And that way they're able to 3D tour it and see the full, and she was like, oh, that'd be so helpful, thank you. I didn't realize that that was on there. A lot of agents just don't look, I don't know why. But so it's happened more often than not. We sold Nikki's house in Candelas in one day. The people FaceTime. More and more it's happening now where people are buying them, they've never been there. But I asked that agent, okay, so they've never been here. What is it that they like about the house? Why do you feel like they're not gonna back out of this deal? You know, or like somebody might say, well, we're moving here and they wanna do a 45-day closing. Well, I tell them, well, I want my dates and deadlines written for a 30. Because I want that or I tell them they're coming from out of town. I would really like to, because that makes me nervous sometimes. I'll tell them, I'd like to see earnest money become hard after inspection. Just to guarantee that you guys aren't going to be like, oh, something new and shiny came on the market, we're backing out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, that's why the communication with that agent is really important. We'll talk about presenting the offer and then responding to the offer. So if I could get this to click forward, that would be awesome. 17, all right, the checklist. All right, so presenting the offer. The offer sucks, you're required to present it. If you have multiple offers, I would highly recommend creating a spreadsheet. Margaret has one that I'm sure she can share, and put all the big points in there, right? So you're gonna let the seller know we have an offer. When can we talk about presenting it? Or set ahead of time, like with this house we have on the market this weekend, our expectation is we're gonna compile everything Sunday night. We're gonna probably go drive up to Firestone on Monday and we're gonna go through everything with her, right? I don't update the CMA. It says put the offer into perspective given the current market. I mean, you should already have a pretty good CMA. If you can, if there are other houses in the neighborhood that are under contract, I always call them to see what they're under contract at. Not everybody will tell you, like the lady around the corner from this house in Firestone, she goes, well, we're over asking. I said, are you over 4? She said, yeah, we're over 4. I said, are you under 430? She said, we're under 430. I said, are you over 415? She wouldn't tell me the exact number, but I asked her enough questions that I figured out they're at 425, right? Most people will just tell you, oh, we're under contract at such and such. How many offers did you have? What kind? A lot of agents want to brag, give them the opportunity. Okay, so you're sort of saying, okay, here's our offer. We had 3 offers, we had 15 showings. I called the other agents, they had similar traffic. Here's where we're at, okay? So you're presenting the offers. Your seller's gonna care a lot about price, right? They're gonna care about whether or not they're waiving inspection objections. What sort of things are they gonna potentially ask them to do? What's the buyer's motivation? Again, talk to the agent, talk to the lender. Like these people are moving here from Utah. He's coming here to be CEO of the company. They've already told me they love the house because both their kids, they're 11 and 6. So we have a K-8 school. Their kids can still go to school together and walk to school right up the street. They're like, they're all in, right? And I know the guy's taking a job as a CEO. He's going to be well qualified. You know, she told me more about them. They're really chill, and you know, they immediately are waiving inspection objection. She goes, the house is 2 years old. What's going to be wrong? There's already a radon mitigation system, and these people bought it a year ago and had a full out inspection, and everything that was wrong was fixed because it was a very different market when they bought that house for $635, and we're selling it for $875 a year later. Crazy. Buyer's motivation, and are there any contingencies? Always look down in the contract to see, do they have a house to sell? And if they do have a contingency, I always ask to talk to, especially if it's in another state, I want to talk to that agent. I want to know where that process is. I want to know what the process is like in that state. Is it, you know, what's their confidence in getting to closing? Conversely, if I have somebody who's buying and I'm selling their house and they're buying in another state and they're contingent, I tell their agent there to have people call me because I want to help them get that house, right? One of the best things that I have learned to do is people get really caught up in price. In my 850 house right now that we got an offer at 875, they're very much in that. And so one of the things that, again, Keller has taught me to do is a seller's estimated net sheet. So I will actually do an estimated net sheet on, not, if I have 17 offers, I'm not doing 17 of them, but I'm gonna do it on what I think is the top 3, right? And that's gonna show them with the closing date, because that's gonna estimate their taxes, what they're gonna walk away with. Because they were like, well, we're really not excited about 850. They were still walking away with $309,000. Are you more excited about 350 knowing you're walking away with $309,000? Yes, I am. Present it to them in a different way, okay? So I highly recommend doing that. And then just doing the spreadsheet. I always have in there, you know, price, closing date. One of the other things that I forgot to mention that I'll tell you on the buyer side that I do, it depends on the property, especially, and I'm doing it more with investors right now at lower price properties, but offering to pay the taxes. So on a $390,000 property, the taxes are like $2,200 a year. That $2,200 immediately stays in that seller's pocket instead of going into an escrow to pay next year, because we pay our taxes in arrears, right? Again, not a big thing, but if the seller's like, oh, I could put an extra $2,000 in my pocket, they like that. So that's one of the new things I'm throwing out when people are like, what do you want to see in an offer? I'm like, if you want to cover the taxes, that would be awesome. And most people have never even thought of it again. So you can look in there. Are they covering the taxes? Are they waiving an inspection objection? Who's close, who's, you know, who's got the escalation clause? Have you talked to their lenders? And then you just start going through the offers. Here's what, and very naturally, I will tell you, the cream rises to the top. When you're starting to do those offers in the Excel spreadsheet, I do them by price and then everything else. So it ends up starting at the highest. And then sometimes those people are like, we want a full inspection and we're gonna want this, and then you start going down, you talk through all of them, the cream rises to the top. But do your due diligence in calling the lenders, do your due diligence in talking, you know, to the folks about their people and what you're gonna do. So then the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna respond. So you're gonna reach this decision. And more often than not, I always tell people I'm the jerk that counters, because I just explained to them, look, I wrote legislation for a living and I'm very particular about how I like to see my contracts written. So for example, we like most of the parameters today, but I'm countering on, I wanna make sure that there's clarification around who would pay for an ILC, who's paying for the buyer's docs, and I don't like how she wrote the inclusions. So I'm gonna respond with all those things. We're also gonna push up closing a few days just to save my clients some more money in taxes. She already told me I could. She was like, I just threw a date in there. If you wanna push it up 3, 4, 5 days, whatever. Like, okay, great. So I'm gonna counter the offer. That could lead to further negotiation. I like to just have the conversation on the front end. Instead of going back and forth with counter and counter and counter and counter, have a conversation, pick up the phone. Here's what we're thinking. What do you think your people will think about that? Let me go back and talk to them. Okay. And come back and talk a little bit. All right, you know, we'll kind of work it out. We'll write up what we think is gonna be the winner. If they're being a little bit staunchy, I might be a little staunchy too. Here you go. And we'll see whether it happens. They can always counter back. So you guys know an accepted counter revives any offer. Yeah. So again, that agent that gave me the offer of 11 p.m. last night, I immediately responded to her and said, I will not be meeting your deadline. I'm going to bed. I'm exhausted. And I don't have time to talk to my seller tonight. I'll be talking to him at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and then I'm teaching a class. So I told her the earliest I'm going to get you that counter back is probably 1 o'clock. Just be honest. But also I had a showing at 8:30 this morning that if they love that house, I was going to leverage this offer against that to try to get them up even more, right? But yeah, right? Well, and I have somebody else that's scheduled to show up tomorrow, and I already messaged him. And I said, you know, look, I wanted to give you the professional courtesy that we have an over-asked offer. We are going to be countering that this afternoon. If your clients are really serious about this house, I would suggest that you come see it today. because it's very likely not gonna be available tomorrow, and I'll be canceling your appointment, and I just wanted to give you that professional courtesy. So now, if I write this counter and they accept it, guess what? It revives all of the provisions of the original contract minus what I'm changing in the amendment, or in the counter offer. They can choose to sign that, and then everything starts that process of getting to close, right? They can also reject the offer.
It revives it even though like you didn't meet the deadline that they put. And then on there and what, they could just.
They could just say no. They could say no. The risk of not accepting the offer in the timeline and countering is that they may not accept your counter. They might find something else. You know, I told these guys, at first they were like, well, let's wait through Sunday and see what sort of offers we get. Said, well, this offer, which is a very good offer, could be gone by Sunday. And so then you talk about the risk and reward. Now, the first offer we got at $850, which had the inspection and all of this, they were putting 200 down. I can see why that offer didn't make them, you know, go, woohoo. This offer is a much better offer, right? I told that agent exactly what I wanted. He didn't listen, or he wasn't willing to give me that. These people are. This tells me they're willing to play. So in that first case, we rejected the offer for nothing. I just told them, look, we're not accepting this offer. You're going to have to do better if you want this house. If they accept the offer, or if they accept your counter, that gets you under contract. And then it goes to, what does it say? Buyer agent contracts listing agents to learn more. Don't assume no means no. Yeah, I never, if they're like, well, I don't know if my buyer will do that, write it in the counter. Put their feet to the fire, see if they really will or they really won't, right? You know, but most of the time people are gonna be like, I think we can do that, I think we can do that. You write it up, it all gets signed and you're good, right? But I always do tell an agent, I do give them the courtesy of, my counter's coming back over, here's what I'm addressing. Here's what our concerns are, blah, blah. So like with this one, I'm gonna say, great on price and terms, I'd like to move up closing a few days. I've moved this to this. In section such and such, you didn't indicate who was going to be paying for this. As you can see in the MLS, it's about $355. I am going to go ahead and put down that you guys will pay for this. And you know, I forget what else I was adding. One other thing. Oh, the ILC language. I'm going to replace the ILC language with this. And that should be it. And then you're under contract. They need to turn in earnest money. The title company gets going on the title work. And then the first thing you're going to get to is inspection. And I think that there's another Ignite that talks about going through all of that, but then you get through the whole process. But you want to set your sellers up to get them the most amount of money in the less amount of time with the least amount of hassle. And that's what they're going to love you for, right? So the more that you can push at the front end, in my purview, the more you can push at the front end when everybody's happy-go-lucky and really, really want this house and they really want to win, that, to me, that's the time to get the inspection objection waived. That's the time to negotiate and get that post-closing occupancy. I want the post-closing occupancy with the contract. A lot of people will execute them later. I don't want to do that. So with my counter today, I'm sending over my post-closing occupancy. I'm not waiting a few weeks. What if something gets really ugly or nasty? You know, I don't want them to go back on what they said that they would do, because verbal is not contractual. Contractual is contractual. So I'm going to stop talking, because I'm thirsty. And I know we've gone through so much, and I'm sure you have questions. So let's have some conversation and some questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I had to step away for a minute and I saw on the slide that it said, try to present all offers in person. I don't know if you went over that, but if you're getting, you know, 17 offers on a property, are you really going to try to meet with your client each time in person?
So I present all my offers at once. I prefer not to do it on a rolling basis, especially if I know I'm going to get a lot of offers. If I'm only getting like one here and there with this other more luxury property where I'm on my second offer, really easy to present that as a one-off. If I can't make it over there, we talk online. I actually set up a Zoom so they can see the offer and I can walk them through it. Right? Technology is great. Now, if I have 17 offers, like I'm potentially expecting from this weekend, I'm putting them in a spreadsheet based on all of the major information. And then I'm discussing that spreadsheet with my client in person. My client in that case with the 17 offers is also an older person. And she's not going to be as comfortable with the technology, right? And this is a huge deal for her. She owns the house outright. all the money she's taking from it, she's gonna go buy a place for cash in Texas and live her life in Texas where her son is. So, it depends on how many offers you have. But you are, again, main takeaway, you are required to present all offers. You can't be like, and even me, I can't be like, I don't like this agent, I'm not presenting their offer. Now, when I present the offer, I will tell my client, I've had run-ins with this agent, or this agent's not known for, you know, this, that, and the other thing, and they make the decision. It's not our job to make the decision. It is their job to make the decision, but it is our job to counsel them on the opportunities and the risks that come with all of the offers. Does that answer your question? Other thoughts, questions, comments, soliloquies, limericks?
7 years ago.
I have a question. Do you write like a cover letter email or something similar to whenever you're countering as well? Like, I know you have the
I call them
conversation.
first. I always call them, and then I will also put it in the email, because here's the thing. I don't trust another agent, and trust is probably a bad word. I don't expect another agent to operate exactly the way I do, or to be able to relay the information to their client. So you'll often hear me say things like, well, if it was me, I would tell my client da 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 da. Right? What did I just do? I just gave them verbatim what I want them to say to their client. And more often than not, they will. Because unfortunately, a lot of companies do not train their clients or their agents the way we are trained. That's why when you, a lot of times you'll run into another agent and you'll be like, oh, this agent's really good. I'll ask them sometimes, did you used to be a Keller Williams agent? And they'll be like, yeah, how'd you know? I said, because you know what you're doing. Right? There's a lot of people who have no clue who've been doing this for 25 years and you're like, oh my God, how have you been doing this for 25 years? You don't even know how to write a post-closing occupancy agreement, right? So I don't leave anything to chance. That is really up to you on what type of agent you want to be. I just don't leave anything up to chance. I want to say, per our discussion, this is what we discussed, why. That way, if they're lazy, and more often than not they are, they're just going to head forward to their client and say, we got a counter, here you go. They're not picking up the phone and saying, well, hey, the reason they're countering is X, Y, and Z, right? So I'm putting that in my email. That's just setting me and my seller up for better success.
So I had this situation last night. I had a buyer call me, and he's like, hey, I'm ready to get going. I've talked, I'm just calling you to see if I can get some list of some lenders. Cause so far I've met with Wells Fargo and I've said,
Oh, yeah, big box.
so what would you, how would you, because I kind of just came out and said, Wells Fargo is probably not your best option because somebody's gonna see that and you're gonna go to the back of the pile, and that's what I said, and then I was like, should I have been that blunt about it? Okay.
So what I usually say is, as your fiduciary, it's my responsibility to counsel you on the risks and opportunities with lenders. From my experience, and it can be your experience that you've learned through somebody else, from my experience with the big box lenders, you are I love this, somebody told me this and I use it forever. You are a grain of sand on the beach. Yeah. To a local lender, you are so much more. So unless Wells Fargo is willing to get on the phone and, you know, I'd be happy to call them and ask them if they're willing to be our partner. Are they, you know, are they getting their stuff to closing on time? What do you guys do with appraisal? Are you willing to call and go to bat for this buyer? A lot of those big box lenders will tell you flat out no. Not, and yeah, we get, you know, have issues. And you tell your buyer that and say, look, you know, in a situation where it is very predominantly a seller's market and absolutely everything in our offer is going to be looked at, we need a lender that's going to be on our side and be working to make sure that you get this house. And from my conversation I just had with whatever, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, I mean, even Chase Bank, like, they're likely not going to be. You can even use me as an example, okay? There's a gal in our office who does predominantly listings. And let me just tell you that whenever she gets an offer from a big box lender, if they're the winning offer, they counter and ask them to go with a local lender. I do. I will not accept Bank of America because it was such a shit show.
And I've heard that about Chase and Wells Fargo.
Yes. So you can let them know a lot of times, if it's between you and someone else and they feel better about their lender, they're going to choose someone else. And I'm not telling you this to scare you or to hurt you, but I'm telling you this because it's my job to tell you this. Yeah. Just be honest. Yeah. If you always put it as, I'm coming from your fiduciary, I can't tell you how many times I say, as your fiduciary, it's my responsibility to tell you this. And again, they're gonna appreciate your honesty, your insight, or you say, because I'm a student of the business, here's what I'm hearing. That my student of the business, and in my experience, or because I'm your fiduciary, those are like the three things I'm always saying to my clients.
What have been the responses you've gotten whenever you counter for a local lender?
Surprise.
And then,
I tell them my experience, but I tell them first. So let me tell you why I'm gonna counter for a different lender. And I tell them about my experience with Bank of America, and that we almost lost that house and their earnest money because Bank of America couldn't close. I said, unless your Bank of America person is gonna call me and you're gonna make your earnest money hard and all of these other things, then I would really suggest that you talk to somebody else.
was Bank of America the one that pushed it like 4 times?
Here's the other thing you can do. You know that as a Keller Williams agent, if you're listing, you can offer Keller Mortgage to the buyer on the other side. They say, oh, well, it's kind of tight and they haven't found a great lender. Let me tell you a little bit about Keller Mortgage.
I need to ask Margaret to give us some more information, because my Keller Mortgage experience hasn't been so good, but I haven't had that many.
Right. So I had an okay one, and then I had a great one, and I pulled that lender in, and now she's my preferred lender. So
Yeah.
on Keller Mortgage on the website, you can put in who your preferred Keller Mortgage person is.
Yeah,
And I only feed people to Bonnie right now because Bonnie
yeah.
answers my calls late. Bonnie answers my text messages. Bonnie will call somebody on a Sunday for me.
Yeah.
I don't know that all Keller Mortgage agents are
They
like
don't,
that. They're
and
not.
I asked,
gotta
I'm
find
like,
good
I
ones.
want someone who works in Colorado, so I can get a guy in, in Miami.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm licensed to do it, like, no, I want someone with boots on the ground,
Mhm.
I don't want someone.
Well, my
who's
girl's
just
in
licensed.
Texas and so don't
Okay.
discount them just
He
because
just
they're not in
hasn't been very
Colorado.
responsive.
I will forward you Bonnie's information. If anybody else wants Bonnie's information, let me know. I will
I
send
would
it
just
to
like
Bonnie.
to know more about
Bonnie
it, too.
Garza, she's awesome.
There's another chat that just popped.
What's her list?
What's her name? Her name's Bonnie Garza, Garza, and she is in Texas. Okay, Alexia has to get off because she is.
Bye, Alexia.
Bye. You're probably already gone.
Sorry.
But again, that's the cool thing about Keller Mortgage too, the fact that you can extend it to buyers on the other side. So if they're really qualified, you just really hate their lender and you really feel uncomfortable about that. I mean, first of all, it's your seller's decision, but give them that information and that insight. Again, I had somebody with a Bank of America again on another one, and I told them I was like really opposed to it. And they're like, well, they have everything of ours. It's just so much easier for us. Okay. So, well, I don't want you to be surprised if if the seller's agent comes back, this was down in Westwoods at like a $700,000 house. So don't be surprised if they come back and ask you to go with somebody else. I said, if they do, are you willing to go with somebody else? And he said, yes, to get this house.
Mm.
They didn't ask, but I wrote that lender 6 ways from Sunday. How are we doing? It was more exhausting for me because I had to stay on top of the lender, right? Versus somebody like a Mitch or the gal I use from US Bank, or, at least I know Bonnie with Keller Mortgage, they're all on top of their shit. I don't have to do their job too. I do check in, I do, I don't let I'm a control freak, so I don't let anything go on autopilot, but I'm a lot more comfortable with the people I know versus somebody I don't.
Mhm.
Other thoughts, questions? We got another like 5 minutes, and so ask the teacher. And I have to tell you though, it's still really funny for me to be sitting here because I've only had my license for 3.5 years.
Well, congratulations.
So
Go, girl, go.
so if I can do it, you can do it. And honestly, if you guys ever want to talk, I'll more than happy to give you my email and my cell phone number. I have a couple people who call me like religiously just to like bounce things off me. I love being a thought partner. I love discussing this crap. I'm a total nerd. If you want to talk to me, I'll tell you, that's why I came here. When I first came here, I didn't know anything. And I have learned so much, and that's because we have a culture where people are willing to share with one another, and we all want to be successful because we want to see each other succeed and our market center succeed. Call me. I'll give you my number if you have a pen.
I do.
Yeah.
So my cell phone number, and I'm the only person you're going to meet with a West Virginia cell phone number, 304-685-5311. And then my email is my first name dot last name, so Amanda.Reiter, R-I-E-T-E-R. Everybody spells it wrong, and I don't care, I know, but the internet won't get it to me if you spell it wrong. So R-I-E-T-E-R @kw.com. Always happy. call me, leave me a message, leave me a text. I can't always answer because my life is nuts, but I will get back to you. And I would love to be helpful.
Thank you for that.
Of course. Other thoughts, questions? Call me when you go to write your first offer if you want. I think I told Margaret I'd be happy to be a contracts coach. So call me. I'm happy to be helpful with you. And then I will also really encourage you, when anybody teaches the contract to buy and sell or teaches your agency contracts, take those classes. I still like to take those classes. You learn something new every single time. And in this business, I think my perspective is, to be successful, you must keep learning. You must keep learning, because it's one of those industries that's constantly changing, right? And if you're not learning, 685, not 625. So 304-685-5311. Jing, did you get that? I hope so. Let me put it in here.
If not, I'll give it to her. I see her.
Okay.
I think she said got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it send? How do I make this send from here? So hard using different computers. Okay, I can't get it to do that. So, and I'm used to having a touch screen computer, so I don't know what to do with myself. So you guys are drinking through a fire hose. I totally get it. Been there, still doing it. Call me. I'm happy to be helpful. I handle, for our team, I do the majority of the negotiating and the contracts and things like that, because I feel comfortable doing it. It makes Nikki a little more uncomfortable. It's not her favorite thing to do. It can be helpful. Again, don't hesitate. I really love to support other people.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda.
And I'll probably make you laugh and act goofy in the interim. Sorry, it's just
I
who I
like
am.
that.
You don't put me on your punch in the face.
Yes, you won't go on
list.
my punch in the face. No, there's only like one other
Don't
color
do
agent that's on my punch in the face list. All right, bye, you guys. Feel free to call
Bye,
me
thank
anytime.
you.
Happy to
This was
talk with you.
great.
Or I also am very easy to compel with alcohol if you'd like to go out for a drink. All right,
Deal.
take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
What's your favorite alcohol?
My favorite alcohol, I love beer, but IPA beer is my favorite. And then my other thing right now is I'm really into